start at the bottom and work my way up. And obviously on the ground, we put down what we call sole plates, sole boards. Basically, they're just a timber board that the rest of the scaffold sits on. Helps to distribute the weight of the scaffold across the ground. Now, when I originally did my scaffolding course, we were taught to use one sole plate under each leg of the scaffold, if you like. However, since doing my course, I have been pulled up by WorkCover, which is the local WHS authority in Australia and New South Wales, and they actually wanted the sole plates to extend across the width of the scaffold. So this is the way I do it now. Obviously, if you had very, very unlevel ground, that would be extremely hard to do. So anyway, the lowest member should be your sole plates, and they sit on the dirt just to level the ground up and give you a firm base. Directly on top of your sole plates go your screw jacks. So these are adjustable. This handle here winds up and down a threaded shaft. And you can see there are holes in the sole plates, so they can be. So there are holes in the base of the adjustable screw jack, so you can nail them or screw them down to the sole plates, so they're not going to move around. Next member is the standards. These are the vertical members. They come in different lengths, and they should all be staggered throughout the scaffold so that you don't get the join in the scaffold all at the same level. So you can stagger them around at different lengths, especially going to a reasonable height. Feature of the standard, they have this particular type, which is the quick stage type, has these this cluster of 4 connectors. You'll see 2 are higher than the others. That become important later. And of course it has a socket on the end, so you can insert the next standard into the top of that one. So they're your standards. Next member I'm going to look at is your transom. Transoms go across the width of the scaffold, and in this particular scaffolding system the planks sit into the transoms. So they're a T-shape. They fit into these sockets with the wedge. The transom has to go into the lower socket, not the high one, and I'll show you why later. The transom always goes into the lower of the 2 sockets, and you can see this T-shape gives somewhere for the planks to sit. So they're the transoms. They go across the width of the scaffold. You then have your ledges. They go across the length, so L ledger, L length, if you want to try and remember a way of remembering the name. Again, they fit in with the wedge system into the socket, and they go into the top socket obviously, and they tie the scaffold together that way. We've always got bracing. These are longitudinal braces because again they go the length of the scaffold. Okay, and they fit 1 bay each. So each 4 standards form what we call a bay of scaffold. Okay, so 1 longitudinal base per bay, and if you had a very long scaffold, every 4th bay would have to have a longitudinal brace on it, and they zigzag up as you get higher. So they're the longitudinal braces. They have a swivel end on them, so this end is adjustable. It swivels around to whatever angle you need, and it locks in, same as everything else. On the ends we have our transverse braces, so they are across the width of the scaffold. Okay, and you can either have them all going in the same direction like that, or you could have them zigzagging up the end. So remember that: longitudinal brace, transverse brace. Okay, then down here we've got what we call the hop-up brackets. So these come in different widths. This one's a two plank bracket because 2 planks will fit on it, and our minimum working platform there's 2 planks, so it just wedges in on the top here, and the bottom just sits against the standard. And to stop them swinging around, we put in between them what they call a tie bar, so it just stops the 2 hop-up brackets from separating. And I get either like that. Up here, where this is going to be our ladder bay, and I've got a what they call a putt log transom in here. So it's a transom because it goes across the width of the scaffold, and it's a putt log because it just slips in or is inserted around the bar, and there's generally a bolt to bolt this into place. What this does, it lets us put short planks into this part here, which looks like our normal transom. So we can put a couple of short planks in there to form an opening in here, and then our full planks will run through so that our entire bay is not left open, just the spot where the ladder comes through. So that is a putt log transom. There's all our planks in place. You can see a couple of short ones there with our putt log. This is a 5 bay or 5 plank wide scaffold. 5 planks across the bay. You can get 3, generally 3 and 5 are the most common ones. So you can see there 5 planks. And on our hop-ups, 2 planks on our hop-ups to give us our minimum working platform of 450mm wide. Toe boards. So generally the scaffold's set up, the toe board is just the normal planks that we use, and there's enough room in the bay to sit one on edge at the end for here and here. If you have 1200 planks, you can use them across the end. They need to be wired into place, or using the special toe board clips, you can secure them into place. They can't just sit there. And for special areas that are short, you may have to use timber planks, but you need to have a toe board all the way around, at least 150mm up. If you can't, can't clip them into place, they need to be wired in with some tie wire so they don't want to fall off. For special areas that you don't have standard components that won't fit, we can use tube and fitting. So obviously we have the tube, which is the pipe, and the fitting, which is this little attachment here. Notice that it's fixed so that when this bolt comes undone and it was to sort of open up, the pipe would not actually fall to the ground, it would still be left in the fitting. So you should always keep the bolts on the upper side of those, and that just gives us a bit of flexibility in our scaffold. And that's it. They're all the main components of the scaffold. Obviously we need to have our ladder in, and it needs to be tied top and bottom so that it's not going to slip. And just if you have a large gap that you need to bridge, you can use timber planks on the metal planks. Can't use metal on metal. You have to use timber planks across to give you a safe passage. And that's it. They're the major components of our scaffold.